arrow pointing up, I will start, and we alluded to it earlier, but the arrow is pointing up on shutting down recruitments. And, we've written about a little at Dog 24/7 with like 7 Cloud. It's kind of shutting things down. Keelan Jones is shutting things down. And yeah, I got to bring up what happened on, I guess it was Tuesday now. Shout out Hayes Fawcett. I know that, he's a competitor on 3, but he really is. Everyone who follows college football recruiting knows that Hayes Fawcett is really the plug when it comes to like what's about to go down with commitments and shutting things down and flipping and whatever it might be. And the Brady Marchese situation was playing itself out on Tuesday. And that was that was a real situation where I even flipped my crystal ball pick to Michigan. It's sitting incorrectly on Michigan right now as we speak. He, I think, was intending to flip to Michigan at some point during this week. And I think Georgia pumped the brakes on that. They did a good job of really shutting that thing down. But it was sort of an all-day affair of figuring out, is this going to happen? When's it going to happen? Is Georgia going to be able to stop it from happening? And credit to Hayes Fawcett. He was the first one that had put out there like Brady Marchese is shutting this thing down. And then right after that, Justice Fitzpatrick has one that comes out that he's shutting things down. And then Jordan Smith has one that says that he's shutting things down. I thought Jordan Smith had shut his thing down before he'd ever even started getting recruited. It seemed so sound to Georgia. I know that there was some talk. Is Justice Fitzpatrick going to go to Georgia? Is he going to go to Ohio State? Might he take a visit there? Did something get weird? Look, we live in a new era of college football. I don't need to explain to people how negotiation tactics work and what goes on with all of these things. But yes, that's part of it. It might not sit right with you. Live with it. It's just the way of the world. But Georgia got 3 big recruitments shut down. So you count 7 Cloud, Justice Fitzpatrick, Jordan Smith, Brady Marchese, and Zach Fort dating back to a couple months ago. Those are the players that have come out and publicly made the statement that they have shut their recruitments down. So we'll see, if that holds. But I would say good news yesterday, because there could have been some kind of bad news on Tuesday, and it ended up being all good.
I'd like to believe that some of those other guys saw Brady's post go up and they were like, well, I want to do that too. Now, I don't know that happened. There was probably some coordination. But, yeah, shout out Hayes, like you said. I think any good team writer, any recruiting writer, we got his notifications on because usually something's happening and he'll probably have the graphic involved with it.
The other arrow pointing up that I've got is just the House versus NCAA settlement fallout. We don't need to get too deep into it on this because we've talked about the House versus NCAA settlement, I think probably more than just about anybody in the recruiting space, other than probably Ross Dellinger and Brandon Marcello and the people that are actually having to, be in the trenches on these things on a daily basis. But it finally got set. It finally got approved. It happened on Friday night, of course, as we knew that it would. It happened in the middle of the night on a Friday. And we've now seen people start to react. Oh, well, this means this. This means that. I just want to make crystal clear. Georgia has been operating in the House versus NCAA settlement approval world since the beginning of the 2026 recruiting cycle. So I keep hearing people say, like, what does this mean for deals getting changed? Like, whatever. It doesn't change a whole lot. Now, what we saw with Justice Fitzpatrick and Brady Marchese and Jordan Smith might have been somewhat related to that, in that they just wanted to finalize their financial deals with whatever they had, settled with Georgia or whoever else was recruiting them. But just everything that we've talked about this cycle and how we've covered this cycle has been operating under the fact that the House NCAA settlement was going to get approved. Now it officially has. So as far as I'm concerned, if you've been reading Dogs 24/7, if you've been following us on this recruiting show, there's really nothing new. We've been talking about this settlement as if it was going to happen, and as if everything that Georgia's been doing this recruiting cycle is going to be retroactively applied to how they've been approaching everything. So I know people want to have opinions. I know it now feels much more real to people because there was a news headline that says it's been approved by Judge Claudia Wilkin. It's been going this way for months and months, and we've been talking about it that way. So, just know Georgia knew that this was coming, and everything. And I think most other programs do too. Now, what happens? Enforcement, what third-party deals get approved versus rejected. That's all going to be fascinating to watch and see how it unfolds. as we sit here today, we really don't know the answer to that yet.
And the thing to watch is if there's further litigation. I saw some talk on Wednesday about a suit regarding Title IX. We'll see what happens there. But that was really interesting. I think it was a few days after the settlement was approved. Josh Brooks put out sort of a bulletin talking about the future, and he talked about that Georgia's going to fund that $20.5 million that will be used for revenue sharing. And thought that was interesting because I don't know if you saw this, Ben, that there's like the school that I've seen so far, Texas Tech, has said, look, we are looking to our collective to raise a good chunk of that $20.5 million we will use for revenue sharing. So just fascinated to see really like big picture the next year of just how all these athletic departments make them numbers work, what we can actually learn, and what people are willing to talk about, how different their methods look, and which teams decide, what, we really like this strategy and this is what we're going to use going forward, and which ones go, okay, there were some hurdles with this we didn't necessarily expect going in. We're going to learn a lot, and just fascinating to see how it all plays out.
And I've charged myself with figuring out over the next week or so, like, how is this going to look in the Georgia world with the collective, with a potential in-house NIL agency? Like, different programs are taking different approaches. And I don't know 100% how that, like, organizationally, how that's going to look for Georgia yet. And that's something I'm still trying to work and learn. And I'll relay that to the Dogs 24/7 faithful whenever I learn that. Jordan, what you got?
All right, I got 3 for arrow pointing up. We're going to start with the football one and kickoff times. I got this graphic from the Georgia football Twitter account. The SEC announced some of the TV windows randomly at like 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Shout out to Auburn Undercover's Nathan King, who texted me and was like, hey, I don't know if you know this is going on, but the SEC is announcing these times. And I was like, I did not. So I flipped that over there. The new times that we know, Georgia versus Alabama at home, 7:30 p.m. ABC. The following week, home game against Kentucky, noon Eastern time. The Auburn game on the road will be at night. We don't have a time for that. Flex for Ole Miss, flex for Texas, at Mississippi State, 12 p.m. Eastern time. So that'll be an 11 a.m. local kick. And then the Charlotte game, 12:45 p.m. Eastern time. That combined with some of the kickoff times we got a couple of weeks ago means we know at least all the windows and a good majority of the kickoff times. And Ben, I don't know if you have any reaction to what we've seen. Some of them are obvious, like the Alabama game, and I would imagine like that Texas game will be at night. But I tweeted this. The biggest win for me, no night games for Marshall, Austin Peay, Charlotte. I'm sure it's different for fans, but there is nothing worse than waiting all day for Georgia to play a group of 5 or an FCS, because these just don't wind up being competitive games. I'd rather those games be played early in the day. So all in all, getting that, I was happy to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, did I also see that maybe the Auburn game, it hasn't been confirmed what time it's going to be, but it's going to be sometime.
It's like it's 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. It's the night window. They just have not set an actual time.
That's a scary one. That one's gonna that's at Auburn, right?
That is, and that has been a game that through the summer, when a couple times in my Q&As, people have said, what's a game that people are kind of sleeping on, or an opponent people are sleeping on? That Auburn game is the one I continue to look at. Everybody thinks, it's the Auburn homer talking here, but it's at Auburn, and then, like you said, the fact it's at night. The 2 road games at Tennessee and at Auburn really fascinate me, but that Auburn one, that has trap game written all over it to me.
Yep, for sure.
All right, a couple other ones. Arrow pointing up, baseball bat dogs. And there have been a couple things this week where there's been some posts on social media of the dog that goes and gets the bat and brings it back to the dugout. There was a video, I think it was Greensboro's bat dog, a minor league team, and it was a video of like basically the assistant in charge of the dog, and he's like talking to the dog, telling like the history of all the different dogs before it that like went and grabbed these bats, and then the video ends with the dog going and getting the bat. But the graphic that I pulled up for the people watching on YouTube, Bruce the Bat Dog being called up by the Washington Nationals, getting his opportunity, and the graphic, shout out to MLB on Fox, Nationals #1 goodest prospect going to the majors. And, well, I love the idea, but don't you feel like that, these dogs, they would leave like tooth marks on these bats? Like they seem to do a pretty good job,
No.
but it feels like there would be there might be some remnants from them getting the job done.
No, not Bruce. Not Bruce the Bat Dog. Bruce the Bat Dog, he's that's why they're calling him up, because he's already mastered the art of no teeth marks on these bats. He keeps them in pristine condition. Look, Jordan, they leave him in AAA at first for a reason, so that he can, get ready for the bigs.
All right, final arrow pointing up, fishing. Shout out to Anthony Dasher. Went with him and Dave McMahon and Patrick Garvin, the Rivals crew. We went up to Lake Oconee and had a great time. I think we caught probably about 40, 45 fish between us. Want to shout out Doug Nelms from Big Fish Heads Guide Service. He was our fishing guide out there, and we had a great day. Came back with a lot of fish and a lot of work having to fillet these fish and get them ready for whenever we have them for dinner. But I'm a big fisherman. Don't get to go as often as I would like to, but it was a great time. This is the time of year where it's slow enough that you get a chance to go out on the water some, play golf like we were talking about earlier. So it was a very good time and had a lot of fun.
How much merger talk was going on with the Rivals guys?
Honestly, not really at all. And I think part of it was just the way the boat was. We were kind of spread out because I was kind of paying attention to see, but there wasn't really all that much talk. I mean, quite literally, we stayed pretty busy catching fish. Like there really wasn't a lot of time where we were kind of BS. And our guide, Doug, did a great job of putting them on us. And we came through. We had a good day.
Shout out Doug. Shout out Doug.